So hi, One the Good Noise podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Mikaila from yours truly.
And we're going to ask her some questions today about their new EP. Is this what I look like? So congrats on that. By the way, how do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
I'm so excited. It feels like it's just something that has existed forever and I haven't been able to talk about. So now that it's out in the world, it feels really good.
How long have you guys been sitting on it then?
Probably over a year. Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah, over a year. I think we finished recording it March 2021.
That's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe you're sick of the songs since you've been sitting on them so long? Do they still resonate with you?
I don't know. Not really. I think I'm just excited for them to come out. And I think that they're some of my favorite Yours Truly songs ever. So yeah, I'm not sick of them yet. I mean, Walk Over My Grave is on the EP, and that song's been out for almost a year now. It'll be a year next month. So yeah.
The EP is great though. Like easily your best work so far.
Oh yeah.
Front to back, so good.
Thank you. It's cool because I think we all, me and the guys agree that it's the best stuff that we've done, and it was the most stress-free experience for this band ever. And it was maybe we just need to stress less, and then we'll write more stuff that we really like.
There you go.
Yeah, sure. So is there any meaning behind the EP title or cover art?
Yes. So Is This What I Look Like is actually the last line on the whole EP, because the EP closes with lights on. And I wanted to call it Is This What I Look Like because I kind of felt like it embodied what the whole EP kind of spoke about. A lot of the songs are about self-reflection and are about isolation and kind of coming to terms with who you are, and having to go through this really not glamorous exercise of finding out who you truly are and what you love and what you don't love about yourself. And so with the artwork is me writing This Is What I Look Like into a mirror, and that's kind of why I wanted to do that, because it was that whole thing of self-reflection and looking at yourself. And we spent 2 years in our houses and not being able to go out anywhere, and I know everyone's over the whole this is about COVID, and it's not about COVID. It's written about the questions that we asked ourselves through being isolated from each other and from our lives, really, and kind of being looking at yourself in the most looking at yourself at all times of the day, being able to see yourself in a mirror at home and being I'm just with myself now, and kind of getting to know who you are all over again, in a really shitty way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why it's the artwork.
Wow.
I like that you guys kind of took different approach at a pandemic record in a sense, because most artists are yes, it's about the pandemic, or no, it's not about the pandemic. And it's either one, not we wrote it about kind of what you're thinking when you're locked in the house kind of thing. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I think I think a lot of the music we're hearing now is music that was created during this time. So I feel it's a very common narrative. And I guess that we didn't go into it being let's write something about COVID. It was kind of just we've always just written songs and the lyrics have always just been about what I've gone through and stuff like that. And I think in past records I've kind of taking the approach of everything is going to be okay, and me and the guys, we did this together, and where I wasn't with them for the first time in 80 years or something like that, of how long I've known them, and we've always been very inseparable, and being away from them for so long, I was to myself, who am I without this band? What is my identity without being in Yours Truly? And I was so used to being really busy, and Yours Truly being such a huge part of what makes me feel good and what makes me want to live life and looking forward to things that we're doing. And then all of a sudden we weren't doing anything, and I was just going for walks around my house with around my neighborhood with pink hair and in my tracksuit, and I was oh my god, everyone went through it. But it was kind of a thing of so when we went to go write the songs, it wasn't I want to write about COVID. It was more just these are the things that I've thought about myself recently, and this is kind of what just kind of came out naturally.
Wow,
that makes sense. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this EP?
So first of all, the first song we wrote for this EP was actually Walk Over My Grave, which is, I guess, cool. It's the first song we released from it.
Mm-hmm.
The first time Australia came out, up, so I keep burping. I don't know why. I just been eating
It's
before
okay.
the first time, like, we went through they lifted our lockdown. They were like, groups of 4 people can get together, and we were like, okay, the 4 of us, let's go.
Yeah.
And so we booked an Airbnb up in kind of like just like an hour north of where we live, and it was in like a pretty like isolated area, and we were like, let's just get together to spend some time together and just hang out. And then so we went, and then we wrote one song when we were there, like, let's just try to write, and we ended up writing Walk Over My Grave. So yeah, so the writing process was really just like not putting pressure on ourselves to write anything as such, more just kind of like, let's just get together and try to feel normal and try to feel creative, and let's try to, like, you know, put some enjoyment back into our lives. And so yeah, so it's kind of like the songs came from such like a not stressful or pressured environment. It was, so there was that, and then our label said to us, do you want to do some B-sides for self-care, just while, like, you know, you guys can't do anything, like maybe take some demos that you did from the album and, you know, release some of them. And then we kind of came up with this concept of like, okay, like, let's do like this thing called self-sabotage and have it as like the darker, like, you know, partner of self-care, and then it just be like 3 songs that didn't make the album. But then we were like, oh, we wrote this song at that like little like beach house thing, like maybe, and we really like that song, and maybe like there's better stuff to come instead of just releasing some songs that didn't make the album. So that was the whole concept of it first. So then we kept writing for this self-sabotage EP, and then when we went to go and record the songs, we were like, first of all, it doesn't feel anything like self-care anymore, like it just doesn't feel like it's in the same universe. So we were like, okay, it's going to be its own separate project. We're going to give it a different name. And we don't want to do 3 tracks, we're going to do 7.
Hell yeah.
And then they were just like, why do you want to do 7? And we're like, because we have so many songs for the first time. We're not struggling to come up with like, to make time. It's like, we could keep going. Like, we're feeling so inspired. Like, and they were like, okay, 7. Like, if you guys want to do 7, do 7. So for us, this was a huge passion project of like, we actually feel inspired, where self-care was like, we're nervous as fuck, like, we really don't know what we're doing. And so for this record, it was like we just had fun, and it was just a really enjoyable process.
That's so sick.
God, I'm so happy to hear that.
Like,
thanks.
In terms of the writing process, since Australia was so open close, did you guys do any like the Zoom writing shit, or were you guys able to kind of write in a room for the entire process?
It was a bit of both. So whenever we had the opportunity to be together, we would. But then there were obviously times when, you know, we would just sit with our phones on FaceTime, and we would just like talk to each other, or we'd just send things back and forth. But yeah, I mean, then also Australia did this thing where it was like a buddy system and stuff like that. And it was like you could see one other person. So we were just trying to be very strategic with our like, with the way that they did their laws in Australia. And then it was like this thing of like, there's so many kilometer radius, and the boys like, we can all get together and we'll do things. I live far away from, like a bit far away from them. They're like, we'll send you things. So it was just always these constantly changing laws. And it was almost kind of fun being like, how can we navigate this with the way that Australia is saying that we can get together today? Like, so yeah, there was a whole bunch of different, like, you know, there were times when I could just see, it was just like one person at a house where I could go and, you know, work with our producer. And there was times when just our guitarist could go and work with him. So we kind of had to do things. Some of the recording was quite isolated from each other. And then there were some times where it was like, you're allowed to have 4 or 5 people in a room. And it was like, cool, we can do this now. So it was a very odd way of recording. And it was like, I'm going to turn up to the studio today and I'm going to hear what Lockie played yesterday. And I have no idea what it sounds like, but I hope I'm sure it's going to be good, but I have no idea what he did because I couldn't be there.
Yeah. You could have just fucked around for a day and it could suck, you know?
Yeah, he could have, but yeah. Thank God he didn't, because I'd be so angry.
That's crazy how you were still able to keep that creativity and that kind of just freeness while you were writing, even with the open, close. Like, you're not able to see each other all the time. That's amazing how you were able to keep that up for the entire process.
I think we're lucky that we got through it like in like that first part of it, because Australia, like the rest of the world was kind of like, well, you know,
It's over.
everyone kind of, you all been vaccinated now, it's over, go out.
Yeah.
Australia was like, no. Another year of lockdowns, thank you. You can watch all your friends in the States and UK go about their business, but you cannot. And so I think I'm lucky that it was in that first part, because the second part of it, like once it kind of went normal for everyone else, I was like, I'm done. But then we ended up getting our exemptions, and we ended up getting to leave the country to go on tour in the UK. So I was very grateful for that. So yeah, but you know, we're just kind of like the way that things like kind of worked out. Like we were quite lucky, and I think that is the reason why we've had such bad luck in the past couple of months, because there's no way that we could have had that much good luck last year.
Yeah.
So I want you to tell us your favorite lyric off this EP and the meaning behind it.
That's a good question. Probably, I know it's like not like a line or something, but mostly the chorus of Lights On.
The best song on the EP.
Thank you. It's the part where it's the am I what you expect, an acquaintance with honeybees and neon signs, got some clean hands from the outside, which is this whole idea of like when you do something that so many, like when you do something like music and you play shows and you meet a lot of people and you're on the internet, and just like with anyone that kind of has any kind of social media like at all, like regardless of like how many people see it, like you can create an idea of yourself and you can kind of manufacture who you want to look like. And then I think that people kind of take that like, you know, that understanding of you, and they kind of go with it and they act like they know who you are to your core, and but they don't. And I think it's that whole thing of like, you can look as, you know, as innocent and as, you know, as happy and as like positive as you want, but sometimes it's just not really like that, and the only person that like really knows that is really who you are. So that's kind of what that whole line is about. And also kind of like the whole like honeybees and neon signs things about like kind of growing up whilst doing all of this. Like I started doing this when I was like 7. Like I actually been touring since I was 15. So
Jeez.
I think that so I've grown up around like, I've grown up in like nightclubs and you know, venues and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, kind of, you know, trying to grow out of like, I think because I've been around these people since I was so young, I still get treated like I'm still 15. And I'm trying to, and I think, you know, this EP and like this part of my career, I'm trying to like break out of that and being like, I'm 24 now, not 15 anymore, like you know. So that's kind of, so that chorus has a whole bunch of like different meanings to me. It's why I love it so much.
Hell yeah. All right, so where was your headspace at while you were writing the EP?
A lot of different places. I went through like, so I went through like, you know, obviously we all went through the isolation, went through like a lot of disappointment, missing out on a lot of things we'd planned. Like we were supposed to come over for that summer, which obviously didn't happen for us. So there was a lot of opportunities that we had just put out. We were just putting out self-care, and kind of we had all these things lined up like after putting out Afterglow, and like self-care was like the thing that was supposed to take us to the next level, and we're supposed to keep touring and kind of ride this momentum that we had built in 2019. And then it kind of like didn't happen, and then I kind of felt like it was like this big a mountain that kind of went nowhere. And because I feel like when you're not doing things, you can't feel like if something has grown or anything like that. So there was that disappointment, went through into falling in love, for like, you know, being heartbroken, and then, you know, kind of like falling in love again, and then kind of went through like, you know, a very roller coaster, you know, love almost. So there's also that as well. And I think that when you're like alone, like everything that you feel is just like times 10, because you can't do anything to kind of like hide from it. You kind of just have to like, and I'm such like a dweller, like I just sit in like my emotions and I feel them like times a million. So it just made it even worse. But yeah.
All right. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, definitely a roller coaster.
I'm not sure if we asked you this question when we interviewed you about self-care, so I'm going to ask it now. What was kind of the idea like behind putting it out during the pandemic? Because you guys totally could have sat on it and waited and like maybe like be riding the momentum of that album now.
So no, yeah, there was definitely that thought, but then it was like no one really knew that it was going to take 2 years of our lives to kind of get back to normal. So I think the idea was let's put it out and in a couple months it'll be good. Fair and then obviously that didn't happen. But then it was also the thing of like we had put Afterglow out in April 2019. And then it was kind of like we need to like we've done everything we can with this EP now. For us to get to the next level, we need to put out this debut album. And so it was kind of just that thing of we're just going to have to bite the bullet and just do it. And there's a part of me that I'm kind of like, and I feel like it's an album that a lot of people appreciated during COVID. Like it was like, like a lot of people said like this album really helped me get through things. And I'm like, at the end of the day, regardless of whether like we should have really set a different time, I feel like people needed it. So I was, I don't think it's like taking an L or anything like that. But
definitely didn't take an L, but yeah.
But it's one of those things that it's just like it came out like at a weird time, and it was just like kind of like But yeah, we just didn't want to wait because it was just that. I think it was just the time for us to do something else.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's fair. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this EP for the first time? Should they play it in the car with friends, dark with headphones on? Should they blast at a party? What do you personally recommend?
That's also a really good question. I feel like I like the idea of playing it like, with your friends and kind of like, being like in like a fun situation and like, because the songs are fun. Like there are some like upbeat, dancey songs on there. So yeah, like just like, doing something like put it on, like, be able to have a dance or something like that, to be able to like kind of feel it. And then the second time you listen to it, dark room, earphones, listen to the lyrics. I feel like, we can like appreciate the songs and then like dive into them deeper. And I think that's the way that like I fall in love with music. I'm like, oh, this sounds really sick. And I like listen to the lyrics and I like get invested in it. And I'm like, oh, I love this now. So yeah, maybe try it like that.
All right.
For sure. That's the perfect way.
So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this EP for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Fun, different, and what's that word? When you like, see, this isn't quick, but it's like, I can't think of English. Like thoughtful.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So in the same vein as the last question, but not as much pressure, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want this EP to invoke in your listeners?
I want it to be like self-reflecting. I want to be self-reflecting, but I also want it to be comforting in the fact of like, if you've had these thoughts, that like it's very normal, that, we all kind of like, we all live with ourselves every single day. And like, I think that every single year of my life, I've learned something different about myself. And like, I feel like even though you feel like you're soft to your core all the time, there are things that I like now that I didn't like last year. And there are, people in my life now that weren't in my life last year. And that like the fact that things change and that you discover different things about yourself doesn't mean that, that you're losing who you are or that like you're selling out or anything like that. It just means that you're growing, and growing is like a very positive thing to do.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite memory that you made while creating this EP?
Probably the people that I met through doing this. Okay. So like, I know it's not really kind of a memory, but like working with Josh and Dan from You Me at 6 was just like completely unreal. Like I grew up loving You Me at 6. I had a You Me at 6 Tumblr. And so yeah, like when I was 14, I was like You Me at 6, like just reblogging everything. And so yeah, so for me, that was just like they're a band that made me want to start a band. Like them and Tonight Alive, like my 2 like favorite bands. And there was a day that we played Unify, and the next day I had gotten a message from Jenna saying congratulations on Unify. And then just after that, Josh had sent me a message about Hallucinate. And I was like, this is just a really full circle moment for me. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably kind of one of my favorite moments, like from the EP.
That's so sick.
If that has nothing to do with like, yeah.
I'm glad you got to work with them.
Yeah. What was it like working with them, like personally? Did you kind of have a moment where you had to stop yourself from fangirling, or was it just like super easy?
It was very surreal. I remember just like kind of like being there. I remember seeing him and just being like, oh yeah, that's person. And then just being like in there and then I think that the fact that like when it clicked is that like in where they like record, there was like a whole bunch of like records and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, like that's all these albums that I've listened to from back to front a million times.
Yeah.
And then I think when I actually heard him singing the song, like I was like, I wrote that song. Like I wrote that song. That's sick. Like, yeah, it's just, I think, and sometimes, I don't know, like it still just feels like, you know what, something just feels kind of surreal that it doesn't like clocked properly, that like it actually exists. I think it's still a bit like that for me. So yeah.
Okay. Well, it definitely exists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you tell them about the Tumblr blog though? No. God damn it.
No. I was like, I said to him, I was like, I'm a really big fan. Like every time you play Sydney, like I was there. Like, and they were like, oh, that's really cool. And I was like, no, like big fan.
You don't understand.
Like, no, like, but like at the same time, I was like, yeah, like it's fine. Like I'm a fan.
I'm just, you know,
it's no big deal.
I actually don't even know who you are.
Yeah, like
I've heard a couple of your songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You're at a gas station for a rest stop. You're going in. What is your snack of choice?
It is probably a sandwich if it has anything chili in it. Okay. That's something that like in the UK, there's always sandwiches at every single like, you know, petrol station. So so I always get like a sandwich that has chili in it and a packet of chips and an orange juice.
Nice.
Yeah.
When you say chili, do you mean like the beans and meat and tomatoes, or?
No, that's what I mean like peppers.
Oh, okay.
Oh, like chili peppers.
Yeah,
made me very confused too.
Spicy food.
Yeah, you saw like chili and like in between like
it's like that's really
bread,
disgusting.
Right? I was like, it's soggy.
Like, ew, no.
Okay, all right.
I was a little worried.
Actual, like anything that's spicy, like any sandwich that's spicy, I'll buy that because it's just, you know, I feel like I'm like, this is kind of healthy. It's got bread and a bit of vegetables and salad, but we have packet chips after that, so it kind of ruins it.
Cancels it out.
It evens it out. Yeah, exactly.
So on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
Pesto pasta, because Teddy likes to cook, and whenever we go to someone's house or let us stay at their house for a couple of nights, he always offers to make them dinner, and he will always make pesto pasta from scratch. And then so it's like, Teddy, when are you gonna make your pesto pasta? So I think that we're just kind of like, a couple of people know us. It's like, oh, pesto pasta. And we're like,
yeah. All right.
That's perfect. All right. So for these last couple of questions, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So if you could become one animal for the rest of your life, which animal would you be and why?
One of my dogs, because they get treated like absolute royalty.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So if you could have lunch with any celebrity or artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I really like Lizzie Hale, and I've spoken like this is like, I'd love to talk to her. I can't even speak apparently. I really like to talk to her just about like how she's been so successful as a woman in like her style of music. Like it's such a male dominated, like it's like that part, that kind of rock is so male dominated, and they have just like, you know, been so successful, but getting on stage wearing like heels and like, you know, makeup and stuff. Like I love that, and I would just love to like hear some of their stories and just like be told like what it was like when they started out and like when they knew that like they had respect and stuff like that. Like I would just love to know.
Hell yeah.
God, that'd be so cool. So for this last question, boom, you're on a deserted island. You could bring one person, one movie, and one album. Who and what are you bringing?
Sorry, one person,
one movie, and one album.
That's one person. That's really hard. Can I take one of my dogs?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, take my dog Charlie. And then movie. Twilight, because I grew up in the most peak Twilight. I was like 14 when Twilight came out, so I just think that it just has to be that. I was like peak Twilight fan, like Team Jacob, Team Edward, loved Paramore at the same time, so it was an absolute just like and the last one is, sorry, my memory is so crap. Like the last one was album. Promise Everything by Basement.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
all right.
Yes.
So as Glory said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
I guess like the EP is coming out July 15th. Hopefully you like it. If you don't, I'm sorry.
They will.
All right. Oh, well, okay. Thank you. Thank you for now. That's been Mikaila from yours truly, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.